Today we're looking at task 1, so grab a pen and let's begin. We have Introduction Overview, Detail 1 and Detail 2. Now it's that easy. To be honest, I can still hear my high school teacher singing it as he would. Alright class, Introduction Overview, Detail 1 and Detail 2. Yeah, it sounds kind of silly, but it's simple and effective, okay? Alright, let's jump in and have a look at exactly how we can use them. On the screen we have a line graph. Let's read our task. The line graph below shows the number of bus users in thousands between 2000 and 2020. Summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features and make comparisons where relevant. Alright, so I've chosen a very basic graph for this demonstration so we can see just how easy it is. Whenever we see a graph, we should very quickly skim over bus usage 2000 to 2020. We have our X and Y, we have our years along the X axis, and we have number of bus users in thousands going up our Y. You can see we have intervals, steps of 20,000. We have 20, 40, 60, 80 to 100. We also immediately can see the trend. Here we have an upward trend, an increase happening with a slight dip towards the end, okay? So I have a quick skim, and then what we can do is start thinking about our introduction, okay? Should be one sentence, ideally 2 clauses. One thing we see time and time again is something like this. The line graph shows the number of people using buses between 2000 and 2020 measured in thousands. Now, what you might notice is this is the exact same thing written on the task itself. We haven't paraphrased. Yes, it's grammatically correct, but it's too basic. If you want to be hitting a 6 in your speaking, you must be using paraphrase. So a much better introduction would be something like this. The line graph illustrates changes in the number of bus passengers between 2000 and 2020, with figures given in thousands. Can you see the difference? We now have paraphrase. Bus passengers instead of people using, and illustrates, a really key verb you guys should be using in your writing. For our overview, we really don't need a lot of information. Here, you should really just summarize the main trend, okay? Overall, bus usage rose significantly over the period, reaching a peak around 2017 before falling slightly towards 2020. Let's unpack this very quickly. Overall, right? So the main trend, we see an increase, a rise. So rose, and we have an adverb, significantly. Okay, so we see quite a steep, quite a strong rise over the period. We also put the peak, right? And the time, when did it peak? Around 2017. And then we've got that slight dip or fall. So when we look at our first paragraph, the first detail, we're going to go into more depth about dates or amount of people for our case here. So we're really going to start looking at the figures, okay? I'm going to describe the first half of this graph, though it's not always that easy. I'm just going to unpack the main trend a little bit, okay? For this graph specifically, that's going to be from 2000 to, let's say, 2015 or so. At the beginning of the period, about 10,000 people traveled by bus. From 2000 to 2010, the number of passengers rose steadily, reaching around 45,000. The growth became much sharper after 2010, as bus use grew rapidly and climbed to nearly 90,000 in 2017, which is the highest point shown on the chart. Okay, so I've taken that main trend, that increase, and I've provided more dates here with the figures, the amount of people. So we can see from 2000 to 2010 starts to get sharper, more steep from 2010 to about 2015, and it continues to increase to 2017. So can you see what we've done? We've just provided extra figures here. Sounds really good, right? Let's move on to paragraph 2. That is detail 2. Detail 1 and detail 2. In paragraph 2, we're going to look at the second piece of data. For this graph, it's that slight dip. I'm going to give the dates, and then I'm going to compare the start to the end of the time period. Let's have a look at it. After 2017, the number fell slightly, ending at just over 80,000 by 2020. Despite this small drop, the total number of users remained higher than at the start, showing that bus transportation became a much more popular form of travel over the 20-year period. All right, let's unpack. So paragraph 2, the first sentence talks about that dip, like I said, and then the second part of the paragraph really just compares the beginning and the end of the graph with figures, okay? If I get that off the screen and I'll put the entire sample up here for you, you can see a very clear introduction and overview. One sentence each, a detail 1 and a detail 2, looking at the main trends of the graph. And right at the end, we're comparing the start to the end. So if you're aiming for a 6 or above, you really need to be using a method like this. This is really a universal, a basic way to summarize information or data. All right. I hope you enjoyed that. See you on the next episode.